The Federation has had access to the Doomsday Machine for over 150 years, I believe, at this point. So has had time to research neutronium to act as which was also, I believe, what the Dyson Sphere was made of. As far as I'm concerned, it's still limited capabilities of constructing anything with neutronium, but they could at least create a core to house the energy into. There is a significant loss of energy in regards to what's produced and what's collected, given that this ship should be in operational for hundreds of years. They can only improve it.
So has this got the most powerful power core in the quadrant, or still something like Earth space dock of the time, obviously, which is the primary function of Earth system, or is it kind of the newest best thing of all these places?
This outstrips any other power core by far. Though there has two problems. One, the resources required to produce it are ridiculous. It requires the Federation to harvest and then shape neutronium. It requires a supernova to be put into that. The other problem with it is it's so large, it's too big for a ship and too powerful for your standard ship, and too overpowered for a station. You need to have a warp engine to really need this kind of power plant.
That makes sense.
Or at least have a station that is basically circling a planet.
It feels like perfect for planetary defense, though. I mean, there's nothing compared to creating shields, really powerful shields. So.
In theory, yes, but as far as I'm concerned, you need multiple species working together or the Federation, the Tholians, and the Romulans. I've put it in the biography that I made for the ship that you'd need to conquer about 65 to odd % of the Alpha and Beta quadrant to have access to the resources, the knowledge, the facilities to actually build these.
Now, how long did it take you to develop this whole the ship design and backstory? Like, when did this process start, and is it finished, or is there still more that you keep coming up with?
Well, I came up with this in about 7 or 8 hours. I worked on it.
Is that just the design, or is that like everything, like the power sources and all the details?
I'd add a few more details over time, but they'd mostly be just a couple of minutes here and there. The diagrams took a couple of hours because my hands shake a lot, so I can't really just draw too well. I see it as maybe like the older brother to the Enterprise J. If you have a ship that's supposed to go to other galaxies, this would be the starting point. This would be where you see how these technologies be required for independent operations completely outside Federation space for years or decades. Once they're launched, they've got refineries, they've got industrial replicators, they can build what they want. Thanks to the Doomsday laser, which again, so complex that it's pushing their own technology to the very limit. Knowledge and resource-wise, just to build 3.
Well, I do like the Tholian crystalline structure idea, like expanding like a coral reef. I think that's a great idea. It's kind of like the Borg nanotechnology that repairs the hulls of their ships with little nanos that actually go and do the repair jobs. But I do like the Tholian integration because the Tholian tech has always been really cool to me. So adding that was really great.
And you said to me, Stuart, it's criminally underused, the Tholians.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. And it felt very organic to include them.
Wanted to do something a bit different, and everyone always focuses Federation, Klingons, or Romulans. When you actually look at the space between the Next Generation and Star Trek Online, where it is now, you've had the Dominion War, the Cardassian border war just before the Next Generation. You've had the Iconian War, the Klingon Federation War, 2 of them. It doesn't matter how you look at it, there has to be a breaking point right across the Alpha and Beta quadrant where they say, even if we really hated each other, we are at our personnel limits. We just need a break and to do something to symbolise this. And I thought it'd be a bit more Roddenberry-esque to create something that would require cooperation.
So what is a dispersive coelectric drive warp ring?
I could never quite visualize it right, so it's only loosely visualized, but there are rings around the nacelles. The nacelles are so large, they're several times the length of a sovereign class. It's harder to form a solid warp bubble. The energies are dispersed so quickly that these take any excess energy that starts to disperse away from where they want it and focus it around the ship. There's also a lot of equipment on the struts and around the nacelles that are used to form the warp field. It's also why its warp speed's so limited. The engines are incredibly powerful, but because of that, they're hard to shape into a appropriate warp bubble.
Although if Slipstream's its primary, and Slipstream is already dozens of times faster than a warp, it'd seem like you're sort of limping a warp at their speed, especially. That's nothing. That's, round the corner, and then Slipstream you can just nip off to, wherever really quickly. It almost seems redundant to have warp drive, especially since you don't need warp drive nacelles to generate a Slipstream field. Kind of seems like it's a hefty toll of resources to build something that's mostly redundant.
To be honest, we don't have much information in regards to Slipstream, and yes, we do know it's much faster than warp drive, but I see it as more, especially since this is reverse engineered technology based mostly on scans of the Dauntless. I see it as more of a general area. It'll get you to within X amount of light years of where you want to be, and then you'd use your warp drive to be pinpoint to your system. For one thing, it's a bit more. It doesn't destroy the aesthetics of existing Starfleet ships to accommodate Slipstream drives.
Although you mentioned Stowe, also in Star Trek Online, Slipstream is every day. So are you literally following from that? Because by that point, Slipstream is more the norm than warp almost. Or are you sort of loosely saying some Stowe stuff, but really it's still your own pick and choose headcanon Stowe rather than actual Stowe?
Part yes and part no. Stowe is great, but it's a game, and so they're the dynamics, how they have the ships running, they're based on how playable it is, not to story. If you use Slipstream and Stowe, it only works for so long.
And you put a lot of detail into the files you gave us. There's even nice diagrams of how things work. I'm just scrolling through that, and it's actually really impressive, the amount of detail and thought you put into this. There's just so much here, so hopefully the fans kind of get, a taste of it with maybe some of the diagrams and stuff from your original works.
We wanted to present you the leading edge of this information.
That wasn't even its original name.
Speaking of, while I was writing this script, we kind of went through like 3 different name changes. So tell us a little about the original name and how we got here.
Well, it was originally the David Livingstone class because I wanted something a bit more peaceful than, defiant or something more enterprising,
The slap you silly class.
Yeah, no other species is going to accept it named after a human explorer, so you couldn't really call it. I just say, okay, the Federation chose to call it David Livingstone. He was an explorer. The reason I chose that name is because I live a couple of miles away from where he was born, so and I'm Scottish, so we're going to it. The next idea was the Frontier class, because you're pushing beyond the edge of the frontier, you're pushing the boundaries. Yeah. Great. Thank you, Deep Space Nine books. You took it. You got there ahead of me, and you took it.
But they are books. It's not really official canon, but I see why you wanted to change it.
Can you imagine trying to say that to the Trekyardians watching this? And please, it's not quite canon, so please just accept that we're taking it. Yeah, that wouldn't start a fight.
Last names for Trekyards originals, sometimes they've already been used in books or whatever, but it is what it is. But then you decided on the leading edge class.
Yeah, I had to come up with something, and it seemed general terms. Leading would be forward and front, which could apply to many species. The translation, and the edge would be just the edge of your territory. Again, the concept would be fairly universal.
So leading edge technology and leading edge of the frontier, basically.
Well, and in another way as well, to end on the whole, I didn't expect this from the script because this wasn't in our original discussion on Skype, but the whole EMH holographic rights crew member thing, where we left holograms in Voyager was, a lot of progression in a very short amount of time, and then Stowe, we kind of see it as a whole varied thing, as again, game mechanics, and so it's interesting to have that be such an important part, and also capabilities to run up to 1,200 holo people is absolutely incredible. The Doctor could only a single crew member could be run in Voyager, and then 2, I guess, in Prometheus, and that was already cutting edge. So this is, I'm guessing they're using, Federation tech wouldn't be that advanced yet, so I'm guessing using another alien race's much better, computer core / how, we don't know, Stuart, do we, what the Romulan holographic technology is. Do they have Romulan crew members? And maybe, the Gorns, because they can't, less opposable thumbs, they have holographic people for, 80 years, we just don't know. And so, talk about why such a big part for holograms, and why they don't have their freedom yet. Because I was intrigued by the caveats, given where we got to in Voyager, how it took this long to even be mostly there.
There's actually multiple reasons for this. The first would be this is a completely enclosed environment, so holo emitters can be set up everywhere, whereas in planets and stuff that's far more limited. It would have to be limited to ship stations and such, whereas this would offer trained, highly skilled officers. Effectively, they would be inactive officers. They could choose their projects, but if there was an emergency, they could be reactivated. You get medical, you could have engineering. This ship is huge. It's so many different governments involved. They're not all going to want to use the same computer cores. The Klingons wouldn't want to put their scientific data for everyone to see, so you'd have closed systems.
Although wouldn't that go against the entire point of the station?
No, they're capable of independent research, but they might do also shared research as well. The Klingons and Cardassians might stationed on some Klingon ships doing cause of an interest, and they'd share the research developing a new engine that might be useful for them.
So it was built in unison, but really it's kind of like rented space. Everyone has their own space, doing their own thing, and then sometimes they're together. But really, it's not a unified ship station. It's just like DS9. People live on it, people take parts of it, but really it's not this great, amazing experience. It's just a colony in space with different precincts, sort of thing.
In many cases, yes. It means that if it removes a lot of pressure, I figured, because if you said this, everybody's working together, it's a bit of a jump given the past histories. But if it was, you could do your own thing on board, you could develop your new ships, your new engines, we could work together on this if we wanted, but there's no, you must do this, you must do that. The fleets are coordinated purely on the basis of if you need support, you know where everyone is.
And I just look back and there's at least 9 powers involved. So you say 1,200 holo crew members, split up between 9 ways anyway. I'm sure they have an allowance. So really breaking it down to, we're really only going to have a certain number of crew members. And if half of them, 3/4 are emergency, it sounds like a lot, but really it might only be 15, Klingon holograms at any one time active, and 10 aquatic and 10 Gorn. And, it does break down because it is difference.
Because remember, this is substantially larger than Deep Space Nine. But also, this is not got lots of holo areas. If you were assigned to one of these, you could be there for 10, 20 years. If you're assigned to the fleet, your family would stay there while you're able to serve without having to endanger them. Mm-hmm. And they'd still be close by. It might only take a week for a slipstream drive to take you to the extremes or to take you hundreds of light years.
Yeah,
that's great. And the addition of the shipyards and the mining laser to be able to get the materials to build new ships is just fantastic. It's a great idea. I really like this concept. So the
fleet yards wouldn't build unless there was a particular need a ship over 500 meters. Yep. It takes time, it takes resources that if it takes a year to build a ship like the Sovereign, or a year and a half to build a ship like the Sovereign, that's you taking up a berth for a year and a half.
Yeah.
So it's more like shuttles, maybe something the size of the Rhode Island class, just to test new technologies. Then they'd let Utopia Planitia build the big boys and assign it to the fleet.
All right, well, thank you, Derek, for bringing us this ship and for sharing it with all the Trekyards fans out there. I've really enjoyed reading about this and writing this script and talking with you about it. And would, you know, I think it's a great addition to the fleet. So thank you very much for bringing it to our attention.
Thank you very much, both of you, for having me. I'd like to put it up on the bio up, and there's a lot of vague things I've left vague just to get feedback on, and maybe see how people feel about it and make amendments over time.
Yeah, absolutely.
What the audience is here for. You put it out there, and you have the just huge diversity of people saying what they think, and hopefully good things. There's definitely, I mean, you guys can see and feel the amount of work put in and thought put in. And of course, thank you to Stuart for the script, thank you to Barry for the 3D model, thank me for finishing the model and doing renders. Took a lot to do that many, because it's double part to see all these cool things and try and realise the fleet feel, because you can't just sell it on its own thing. It's got to be within a fleet, because really, Stuart, you said it's part of the fleet, but really, Stuart, this is its own fleet. You know?
It is, but yeah. But anyway, guys, if you want to help out the channel, you can do so. You can support us on Patreon or head on over to one of our lives. We do lives every week where you can super chat and help us out and get to hang out with a great community, including people like Derek that have great ideas and a really fun time. So check out all of the links down below to all the relevant details and help us out as you can, as you see fit, as you're able to.
Or a one-time donation at trekyards.com, or you can even get, you know, like Derek did, a Trekyards original, where we could take a design that you've had from a simple sketch to a couple of sketches to basic 3D, and depending on what you have, what your budget is, and what you want to create with the show, we can go to your ability there. And Derek, how has it been to do this with us? Would you recommend it to the fans out there?
I would recommend it. It's great seeing it brought to life. I'm not the best artist in the world, so seeing it and as a whole has been really good, and getting to talk about it is great. You know.
Well, I'm glad we could help. We love doing that kind of thing and bringing it to all the masses of our fans out there. And speaking of Derek, you know, getting a Trekyards original, he also got a Trekyards original in the form of a shirt, as you can see. And if you want to get your own Trekyards merchandise, click the link to the Teespring store down in the description below. But other than that, guys, I think we're going to call it quits for today. So, again, thank you, Derek, for joining us. And until next time, guys, I'm Captain Foley.
I'm Connor Cockins, and guest.
Me, Derek Rankin. Thank you very much.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.